In the grey light of dawn, we drive south of Bakhmut in a trophied Russian Tiger. Suddenly the car stops. We leave the armored vehicle and rush out, loaded with drones and grenades. The enemy greets us with fire.
Пушка, наверное. Ствольная артиллерия.
Это нас типа засекли, пока мы подъезжали?
Ну да, скорее всего.
The sun rises and strikes the lights onto the surroundings. The soldiers still call it a tree line, but the trees have been shot to stumps. The unit is preparing for the work. They're setting up antennas, the drones are ready to fly. The position we are at used to belong to the Russians, and actually behind my back you can see the body armor that is fully covered in blood. Within this like maybe 20 minutes that we are here, we heard cluster munition, we were shot at by the artillery, and yeah, this is a very dangerous place as the enemy is about like 2 kilometers from us. Какова задача на сьогодні, хлопці?
Business as usual, searching for the fuckers and destroying them. We will spend the next 12 hours here, in the middle of the field, under crossfire from both sides, hunting for Russians from above. There are also Russians here, next to us, dead, left behind. We make them ourselves. It has more explosive and fragmentation pieces in it. It has a power of 4 F1 grenades combined.
Не прошла команда, прикинь.
Еще раз нажми.
Да, сейчас буду.
The first attempt fails. The Russian electronic warfare scrambles the signal, and the drop-off mechanism responds with a delay.
They use a signal jamming system that covers an area of 100 by 100 meters, like a dome. It's almost impossible to fly there. It depends. Sometimes you can fly in, but you can't fly out. It's all about experience. You have to consider the altitude, the connection with the controller, whether the camera glitches or not. Based on this, you already understand whether you fly left or right and which altitude you take.
Launch after launch, the drones fly non-stop. While one is in the sky, the second is on standby. Code 9-2 has been working from here for a week. The Russians know it and hide the moment they hear a drone buzzing. But not all of them.
A week ago, they were probably expecting an assault, and they all crawled out of their trenches and just stayed there. I think we did 6 sorties, and there were 2 wounded after the first one. The second one, 2 wounded again, and they were just lying there. They didn't know what to do. It was either panic or the commander forced them to come out despite the bombardment. It's probably because the vampire drones were working that night. They destroyed their fortifications, a new shift came in the morning, and they saw that the positions were gone.
So during our time here, it hasn't been quiet for a single minute. Artillery working, we saw the helicopters, we saw missiles. It's been super active in here. Russians are fighting back very brutally. The fight there is insane. To be a witness of such a brutal fight, it's quite scary, to be honest, because I just can't stop thinking of the guys in the tree line behind our backs that was shot at multiple times. It's quite heavy, yeah. Code 9-2 has been deployed to the Bakhmut area since January. There they kept the Wagner troops away from the notorious Road of Life, the last artery for Ukrainians to bring supplies and evacuation.
I don't know. Maybe it's an overstatement, but the drones in our group did a lot, I think. There have been days when the 2 of us, 2 pilots, have killed up to 40 people. all in one day.
за один день. Там из месяца.
There were 5 days out of the month when they weren't advancing and they were just sitting in the
Не
dugouts.
5, что они не идут вперед, просто сидят на позиции. А так.
The rest of the month they were assaulting. And the infantry, despite all the conditions, artillery fire and weather, they held their positions.
Да.
Yes, I think it's not the artillery that's the god of war, but the infantry. That's the hardest. I don't know what could be harder than being there.
Быть там.
These boys are true heroes.
Герои.
There aren't many like them.
Now the goal is to cut off the supply route from occupied Horlivka. But first the Ukrainian forces must reach the railway line, as it serves as a protective barrier. Out of this trio, Becha is the most experienced. As a kid, he dreamt of reconnaissance. His dream came true, but so did his biggest fear.
To be honest, when I decided to work in reconnaissance, my biggest fear was getting blown up and becoming disabled. I knew it was very likely. But when it happened, there was no time to cry, because I realized that even though we were evacuating towards our positions, we were still in a gray zone. There was no point in crying, screaming, and panicking. I couldn't risk giving away my team's position. I was fully conscious, and amidst all the shock and adrenaline, while I was still being transported to the hospital, I already fully understood what had happened. Well, now it's done. What can you do? It's hard, but we're moving forward, slowly but surely. The Russians dug deep into the ground. It's hard to assault a fortified area. They have plenty of reserves. How good those reserves are is a different question, but cannon fodder they have plenty.
Помимо основных, наверное, двух функций, это разведка и, например, сбросы, как еще могут использоваться дроны?
Targeting tanks. Reconnaissance at night is very effective because you can see clearly where they walk and where they rotate, what kind of machinery they have, where they're coming from. Vampires are used to destroy bunkers. Tons of equipment was blown up this way. Tanks, BTRs, and MTLBs, they were stripped off their tracks, and in the daytime they were finished off either by artillery or by Mavics. 12 hours and more than 10 Russian casualties later, the Tiger returns to pick us up. As the sun sets, the tired soldiers get some much-needed rest. According to the General Staff, Russian casualties on this day totaled 880. This trio was responsible for just over 1%. Tomorrow at dawn, they will return, hunting Russians from above with one leg or two.